Hi everybody. So we're Sunday. Everything is pretty miserable here at the moment in terms of weather-wise, but not complaining at all because essentially I do love this weather, but this last couple of days have been really bitter, and because of our position in Brittany near to the sea, we often get freezing rain and frost at night, which we're getting from the east, as I say, which is lovely, but we're getting periods of freezing rain and like dirty weather. Sometimes I do wish I lived in North America and Canada, because at least you get mostly deep cold, but dry deep cold, and that's always a dilemma in beekeepers, that our winters are a little bit wet. But the last couple of weeks have actually been really fantastic, because as much as it's been bitterly cold, unusually cold for us in December, it's been great because the bees have actually been shutting down and they haven't been flying. And we moan a lot, well I do, to other beekeepers, and when I talk about the overwintering of bees in Brittany, is the fact that the bees work too much over winter because we don't get proper cold weather. But since probably 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks now, the bees have been clustering, which is absolutely fantastic. So where are we now? I'm just going to spin around and you can see the slab. Excuse me. It's bitterly cold. I've just been out. Yesterday I was out with the leaf blower, believe it or not, blowing off all the ice, because we had a thaw. We came above freezing only just. Yesterday morning the roads were just unbelievably bad. They were solid ice. Not even the most daring person would go out, because it was just cars in ditches everywhere. When we do get that hit, it's usually February, so it's pretty early, so we could have a really long winter. So I was just saying, I cleared the slab yesterday because on Tuesday the building is supposed to come from Belgium, and the forecast is actually pretty good. We generally are going to have not much humidity in the forecast, and the motorway all the way from Belgium, even though they can have snow, they do keep it pretty clean, because obviously that's the main artery. All the main arteries in France, the main motorways, are kept clear with salted roads, which are pretty good. So fingers crossed. I'm being optimistic that Tuesday that will arrive. Tuesday morning he's going to ring me an hour before he gets here, so I can then ring the guy who's going to unload. So I've had to organise that as well. Obviously it's just, you know, all normal work, but I've got to have someone here to unload it, because when the guy turns up with his lorry, he wants it unloaded, and he doesn't want to be sitting around because he wants to Foxtrot Oscar back home, because that's like 9 hours for him to get back, a whole day's driving. So that's why the delivery was so high, the price of it. But there you go. You can appreciate it's bitterly cold, and I wanted to come down today to measure up, to work out the size of the mezzanine. And you can see I've got an existing plan here, which is going to get drenched probably, but that was the existing plan. It's a big L shape that would actually be the longest side is going to be over that side. But what's happened is it's actually changed, and I'm going to bring in that far end a little bit, because I've decided the mezzanine is going to be a little bit smaller, but it'll be perfectly formed, if you know what I mean, and have everything I need. So still 1/3 will be mezzanine. But I wanted to come down now and get the measurements knocked out, because obviously we're having a middle aisle, and I want obviously the base of the mezzanine to finish either side of the central pathway, to give us enough room to get pallets in through the door, which is going to be approximately here. But I was hoping to be able to mark on the slab, and I can't because it's soaking wet. But I'm just going to have to do the best I can. But this is the last time we'll see the slab emptied, until we're obviously going to place a lot of the pallets that are containing the metalwork. That will be assembled first one end, and then built probably this end going down. All of that will be placed at the far end, coming up to halfway, to give the guys some room to work in. The other stuff will be wherever I can get it. Now it'll be a bit chaotic, but there'll be loads of roofing sections, I imagine, all over the place, but it'll be all stacked up hopefully, and gaps and spaces between pallets, all that kind of thing. But it doesn't really matter, because even though it's going to be chaotic, the guys who are going to assemble the building on top of this slab are coming pretty soon, and I'm not going to be doing anything else until the building's assembled. So I'm kind of a bit reflective at the moment, because wherever I look, there's like tons and tons of stuff to do, and it's just so bitterly cold. I've got a lot of hives there that are dead outs that need cleaning out. But to melt down the frames is extremely awkward for me. So I'm just going to have to hold over probably until I get the new building built and a better place to work through those. So I hate that. I want to get them done and clean, but I know that I've just got to hang in there. What I have done during this slab build is I've sacrificed a lot of time that I would otherwise have been doing beekeeping and getting apiaries cut, maybe a bit of hedging work, certainly work at home in the garden. Everything is kind of a mess right now, but I say this every year also because I hate this time of year when you get all the leaves everywhere on the ground, and it's just that, and we've had dirty cold weather, which is unusual. As I said before, I'm not moaning, but it's just I'm feeling kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. I'm just desperate to get this building up. I've got a lot of family coming back for Christmas, which will be wonderful. And then I'm off on the 4th of January to America, which I'm super excited about. But as I said before, there's a chance that the guys can start the erection of the building before I go away. And as long as they're here and they make a start before I go away, I'm happy to go away. But I don't want them actually turning up when I'm not here, because I just need to be here to show them where everything is, and so they can just kind of get used to what is around, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's just, I'm kind of all over the place at the moment. So, but I'm trying to find solace in doing the jobs inside that I know need to be doing. And there's a whole pile of work at home, loads of paperwork. However, that's kind of been, been kind of sorted as I've done it. And I've got everything ready for my accountants for the winter, for the end of the year. So, you know, it's kind of all there. But wherever I look, there's tons of work to do. But I'm kind of working through it. I've treated myself to a couple of more pieces of equipment for candle making for next year, because I'm obviously going to be melting down my own wax. And I'll probably end up buying some wax off other beekeepers, or buying some in ready cleaned and ready done in ingots. But I've treated myself to a Logar trade wax clarifier, which I'm really pleased with. You can see it now. It's a lovely machine. I was toying with either that one or the one from Karl Fritz in Germany, but I've got loads of Karl Fritz gear, as you know. I've got the creamer, I've got the wax steam melter, but I just didn't want to buy their very similar piece of kit, and the reason being why, it's not insulated. And I just felt that it was exactly the same, virtually the same in price, and it was way more attractive for me to get that, because I want my kit insulated, so I'm not wasting energy. Because that's what I've done with all my equipment that's going in. I've chosen equipment that's going to be energy efficient, and if not, I'm insulating it well. And that's the problem with where we are. We're all facing higher energy bills, and all, if you're using steam wax melters or clarifiers or anything like that, just get some good layered insulation and wrap it around it, and you'll save yourself a fortune. It's so logical, you know, because 2 or 3 phase, you know, single or 3 phase plugs, it's all the same. They've all got to reach that temperature, and it's up to you how much heat is lost during that warming process. And if you can contain that heat when you're warming something up, for instance, I melted down a whole barrel of honey the other day. I made a thermal blanket, I'll show you the picture of it now, that sits around the barrel. Now that isn't giving heat to the barrel, it's just holding the heat in. You imagine heat is always leaking away, and it's always balancing itself out. So if you're hotter outside, it'll get warmer inside. If you're warmer inside, it'll try going outside. It's the same principle for everything. And I melted down that barrel in double quick time. I got the temperature to about 36, 37 within less than a day. I know the honey wasn't crystallized, but it was incredibly thick and cold. And I was able to give that heat to that barrel so that I could then get the honey out the barrel and into pots. That was a good exercise for me because I've done that at home on my own now. I have a wand that you've seen that I put into the barrel, which was absolutely great, and that just sunk down this time. It didn't have to, well, it took a while to go down because it was very, very thick, but once it was in, the heat just penetrates through. Bob Binney was talking about his warming tanks he's got, and if you have the heat at the bottom, it will find its way up, and it does do a good job of circulating the honey as it warms it as well, because honey rises and sinks as it mixes with the warm and cold honey in that same tank. So simple things, you know. I got the insulation, by the way, from France. It's a supply in France called Point P. You can look it up. I don't know where else you can get the insulation I bought from. It's got no fiberglass in it. It's just layers of bubble wrap and what would we call it? Man-made fibers, but it's got about 16 layers, and I'll show you the picture now of the actual layers of it. And all it does is it traps the heat really well. So I'm super pleased. I had this idea months ago about it. I thought, well, if there's any piece of kit I can get that's already insulated, I'll buy it, because it's insulated with the manufacturer's insulation. And because the calorifier from Logar heats up to 130 degrees, I would prefer a insulation that's made for that kit, because it's going above the boiling point, you know, like pretty high temperatures. So that's what I've got. I bought that Logar trade wax melter, and I can either use it for melting wax, or I can use it for just melting wax down to clean. So there's obviously the two options, but you can draw off one at slightly high, draw off the clean wax. On lower down, you can draw off the dirt. There's always be, like with all these things, there's always you sometimes draw off a bit too much wax, or a bit too much water, or a bit too much honey, blah blah blah, and you have to run it through again, and that's half the game with these things. But it's finding a system that works for you, and I believe I've got a system now that will work quite well. I've also purchased a small wax melter which melts just down the pure wax after you've cleaned it, which can do about 11 litres at a time, I think. I bought it from Latvia, believe it or not, because they wouldn't sell me it in France, because they said I had to buy it through Eco, and I'm like, well, okay, fine, I'll buy it from somewhere else, because Eco didn't actually stock it. And then they said to me, you'll have to ask them to order it in. I thought, fine, well, I can go and get it from somewhere else, actually cheaper, and that's what I've done. So I've got the wax melter I want, I've got the wax cleaner I want, I've got the steam wax melter I wanted. Yes, I've had a bit of a shop up, but I said to you right at the start of this that I was equipping the honey house. It's got to last a good few years, 20 years of work, and I'm hoping that the machinery I got will do the same. And it's solid machinery that I bought that does all little jobs. That means I can create products from the hive, candles, propolis, obviously honey, other things as well that are on the pipeline that will all keep me occupied and keep me busy in the leaner periods of the year. And in the times when I'm busy, I concentrate on my honey and obviously raising queens and all that, and that's all going to be part of this. So it's all really exciting, and I'm talking myself up a bit now, because I think you've got to kind of just dig in a bit this time of year. And you know, there's a lot of pressure on everybody at the moment. A lot of people are kind of struggling a bit, you know, and England lost the football last night, which is even worse. So it's all a bit doom and gloom from the UK's point of view, but from the rest of Europe, France, allez les bleus, I'm wearing my blue top. For them, you know, it's good. But I just think we need to just dig in a bit and concentrate on the matter in hand, and that is, it will come, it will all sort itself out. And I'm looking forward to going away and coming back to a fresh start and a new building, I hope.
That fluffy tail.
That ridiculous tail, isn't it beautiful? So I've got my measurements done. The mezzanine now will kind of hopefully be ordered, and that will be on its way sometime for the end of January, mid-February, I hope. it's just trying to coordinate everything and making sure you've got enough to pay everything off. I can tell you all, I've applied for a European grant. I don't make any bones about it. It's going to help probably pay for the mezzanine. I've had the okay initially for the European grant, but I won't know until January until I'm going to get that sum of money towards the building and the slab. So I obviously had to pay for it first, and you try and claim it back afterwards. I mean, all being well, I should get it, and it'll be a massive help, and I'll be extremely grateful. And it'll be all the benefits of being in Europe, that they will help you expand your business and give you, this is exactly the reason why I'm applying for it, because this is what I'm doing. But that's another thing to wait for, and hopefully we'll have some good news in January with that. But otherwise, I'll be able to finish the build, but not to the extent I want to finish it if I don't get my grant. So it's like all building projects, it always ends up eating a bit more money here and there. For instance, the electricity coming in on that pole just there, that's 1,300 euros to get that connected alone. And because I've had to have 3-phase because of the level of machinery there, I'm on a higher tariff from the start. But I'm going down the road of, I'm hoping that there's another grant available towards solar panels. And I'll be able to get that in January. Well, there is a grant, and it's separate to the previous grant. So it's all done on, as a farmer now over here, you're not allowed to have more than one grant per so many years. It's a point system. And I obviously understand that I've accrued my points for this grant I've applied for. However, this other grant for solar panels, because of the new kind of emphasis on being more environmentally friendly, it's there for people who are going to be using the electricity they generate. So I'm hoping that I can apply for that in January, February, and then get as many solar panels as possible, and then I'll have to have a battery system, and that's a big investment as well. But it's well worth it, because I may well be able to disconnect from the grid or sell it back to the grid if I don't have a battery system. So there's all sorts of options which I'm remaining extremely optimistic about. Anyway, my hands are freezing. I'm going back to get a cup of tea, because that's what we do, and get warm by the fire to finish writing up the measurements I've made. Anyway, whatever you're doing, have a great weekend. I'll catch you again soon, and I'll let you know when the building comes. Bye for now.